and here we go. Your boy is back, and can you believe it? We have arrived at the final regular season event on the PGA Tour schedule, the Wyndham Championship, where the top 70 will move on. Everybody else will either go home or go to the Korn Ferry playoffs. Now, this is live every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We call it DTL Golf. It's part of the Driving the Line universe. And all year, I cannot tell you how much I've appreciated the three guys that have come here every single week. Today, we have two of them. Let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show, because I don't want to do a big old fat thank you without looking them in the eye. My man, Robert Damron, the man who's hosted the last 2 weeks, Steve Scott. Gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for believing in this, and you've given us 7 months to get us to now. Robert, let me start with you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. 7 months. That's shocking. It really hasn't felt like just a few weeks. But, if people had been paying attention for the last 7 months, they'd be wearing Rolexes and driving Porsches, and if they haven't been paying attention, there's no one to blame but themselves.
I couldn't say it any better. Now, Robert, I may have created a monster, because allowing Steve Scott to spread his hosting wings, we may lose him, in fact. We may lose him. But what a phenomenal job he did the last 2 weeks. Steve, thank you. Good afternoon.
Lose? I don't know where I'm going. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in this little box right here and going to give all the universe all the great picks every single week right here. I'm not going anywhere. What are you talking about?
My man, we're just getting started. We're going to be around for the next 25, 30 years. But, guys, today it's all about who's going to make the top 70. And, Steve Scott, I want to start with you, because when it comes to a betting perspective, sometimes rain and rounds bleeding over into other days, they can absolutely affect how we look at things. Tell me about the mindset of the player, but also how weather could affect things this week.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to build an arc. I actually live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, about 30 minutes away from where Sedgefield is. And if you look right there at our screen, here is our prediction of our forecast right here. The tournament rounds start Thursday and Friday, and Thursday and Friday look miserable. It starts to get a little bit better as we get into the weekend. Sunday looks great. This tournament could go into Monday. So what does that mean for all of you out there in the universe and all of your picks this week? The driving accuracy is going to be so important, because when they do decide to play, they are going to play lift, clean, and place. When you put the ball in the fairway, you have a huge advantage around Sedgefield. The rough is this thick Bermuda that the ball sits right down. It's not pretty. You got to put the ball in the fairway, and it's not one of the longest courses out on the tour. So you can pick some of those guys. Maybe you don't pick every week. And Sedgefield's the 8th shortest course on the PGA Tour. So keep that in mind as you navigate all your players this week. Very important.
So what I'm hearing, Robert, is look at strokes gained off the tee, because approach may not matter if you don't get into the short stuff. And I also want you, from a former PGA Tour perspective, when you're going into something like what Steve just laid out, does it change anything about your mindset?
Oh, for sure it does. Well, first off, it's not even so much strokes gained as much as fairway. Fairways hit, and you got to go with great ball striking. People that hit it on the button. All PGA Tour players are really good ball strikers, but there are some that are exceptional. And you've got to really go with those exceptional ones, because it's so hard to control. Coach, the mentality of knowing it's going to rain. There's how many people in the field? 144 maybe, or something in the field. I don't know the exact size of it, but there's 144 different ways to approach this. Some guys dread it. Why am I here? What am I going to do? Some guys love it. I could kick half the field out. They're just going to be so miserable and upset sitting around the locker room that I've got a mental edge on that. But you've got to, just be as best mentally prepared as you can while still being yourself. And the other thing is, you and your caddy have to talk a lot more. The work on a player when you're playing in the rain, it's harder. There's a lot more to figure out. The work on a caddy is extraordinary, how much harder it is. So, yeah, you're just going to have to be nice, have a nice synergy this week. But it's going to be tough. I'm glad to be watching it from my couch.
Shout out to Landon. He says, I finally made a live show. Let's go. Landon, welcome to DTL Golf. Yes, the Olympic women won today. USA. The best in class right here, folks. John, thank you very much. Now, Steve Scott, we talk every single week. And I know all three of us because we work for PGA Tour Live. Why do you guys say every shot matters? Why do you? It does, because this week there's going to be those 5 names or those 10 names that go, wait a second, if I would have shot a 69 here instead of 72, I would be in the playoffs. How aggressive do players need to be this week?
Well, it depends who you are. If you're just inside that top 70, 69th, 68th, I would not be comfortable because, I mean, there's not going to be 10 players that jump from outside the top 70 into the top 70. There's usually anywhere from 2 to 4 players that do. So those players who are just kind of barely inside that top 70, I would be really nervous. They've got to just make the cut. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Those players who are just outside, in that 74th number, there's a Kurt Kitayama is one of my picks this week. I'm going to throw in there, and he actually he's the guy I'm fading this week. But Kurt Kitayama is 74th, and he's going to have to play very aggressive because there is no next week. And so it just kind of, they got to feel every shot out, but it all starts from the fairway. If they don't hit a ball in the fairway this week, they're toast.
And Robert, when you're talking about now the top 70 instead of what used to be the top 125, it's required players to play more events than they normally would. It's required certain names in the last month that we normally wouldn't see at certain events play when they wouldn't. Last year, we saw Justin Thomas show up, and what did he do? He lipped out on the last hole, or he would have qualified for the top 70. We could see more stories like that this week, yes?
100%. We are going to see more stories like that this week. And really the eyeballs are on everybody in the 60s and 70s, like 64th, 65th, they could fall out. 74th, 75th, they could play their way in. There will be people inside that fall out, maybe 1 or 2, and people outside that come in, maybe 1 or 2. So when you're picking your bets and your picks this week, Coach, you've got to look at who you think is mentally tough enough, who's rested enough, who's done it before in the past, who hasn't done it before in the past. It's one of those strange weeks where first place almost, the winner of the tournament almost kind of is the second story as to who's going to get into these playoffs. And another part of what we were talking about, I was talking about with my brother last week. So at the end of these playoffs, you've got the top players, the Xanders and so on and so forth. Rory's, are they going to play anything in the fall? Will they play a single fall tournament just to kind of stay sharp? Or are they going to take 4 straight months off and put their feet up on the beach? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it really will be. I know for a lot of the United States players, they'll have the President's Cup, but that might be the only thing that they play in the fall. There will be events. Everything has changed. If you go to PGAtour.com, it kind of explains everything there, but it's now a calendar schedule, which is what we will follow here at DTL Golf. January until the Tour Championship, then 4 months for qualifying for all those things. But the top players, you may not see them until Tiger's tournament in December or something like that. But gentlemen, we got to cash some tickets. It is now time. We have 5 different categories here at DTL Golf. The first one being the first round leader for all of you impatient bettors out there. So, Steve Scott, I'm going to start with you. When we talk about 18 holes, who could be at the top of the leaderboard at the end of Thursday or perhaps the beginning of Friday? Where are we going, sir?
Right. And one more thing real quick, strokes gained attitude is going to be so important. So keep that in mind. Yeah, that's there's one that's not on your PGAtour.com right there. But Aaron Rai, he is the guy I'm focusing on this week in the first round. And he'd be a guy that, you might want to wager on for the whole entire tournament. But for me, I'm focusing him on the first round because he's top 10. He's tied for 8th in first round scoring this year. And he is playing in the afternoon. Now, typically, I like to say, well, you want to play those guys who are in the morning. I think the afternoon guys are actually going to have a little bit easier at the beginning because if you have a morning tee time on Thursday, and if the rain forecasted is going to keep up and maintain its way through Thursday, those guys are going to get out there really early. They're going to get at the golf course, 5:30, 6 a.m. They're going to have to hang around the golf course quite a bit. If you have an afternoon tee time, you're going to be lounging back and you're watching all those guys and you're going to be watching the rain come down. You can kind of chill out a little bit to kind of see when they actually start playing. So the afternoon guys, I think, will have a big advantage this week. And, oh, by the way, Aaron Rai's number 1 in fairway hit percentage. So that is a very important stat right there.
Hashtag it pays to watch live, because most weeks we talked about the morning guys. Talked about the morning guys heading in, but now this week's a different animal. Thank God I have these two. So, Robert, last week at the Olympics, it may have been one of the most emotional, best events I've ever seen. Guys playing for 3 medals. Scotty Scheffler literally crying as he shot a 62. But guess who the crowd favorite was? It was your guy that you're picking right now. Explain yourself.
Now, I love what Steve just said, that strokes gain attitude is so important. You know what another obscure strokes gain stat is going to be necessary? Strokes gained balls. And Victor Perez, absolutely, with the eagle birdie run at a medal in front of his home country, he showed brass ones. Let's say that. I mean, he just played his behind off. He hit good putts on 17 and 18 that didn't go in. He could have gotten a medal, but he became quickly a crowd favorite. And I could see for the short term that kind of emotion following in him overseas here back to Greensboro. Now, I'm not going to pick him past the first round. I think you could also fade emotionally on the 3rd and 4th round, especially after battling all the weather with everything you went through last week. But I am hoping that he brings a little bit of that emotion and a little bit of that momentum over the seas and has a nice first round lead for us.
Boy, they can get really, really fatigued, not just physically, but mentally if it drags out like what Steve talked about. But the first round, I like that a lot. By the way, shout out to Scott. Smash that like button. Please do that for us. Helps the show grow. Also, you guys are the best in the business. Why do you think I picked them? I handpicked them. I could have picked anybody.
Duh.
Yeah.
The hell?
All right. Category number 2. And this is what we like to call our bread and butter. If you're a $100 bettor, this would be a full unit bet, the full $100. You only got to beat one other guy. We call it the head-to-head matchup. So, Robert, let me start with you on this one. Where are you headed on the head-to-heads?
Well, there's one overall theme I want you to notice here on all my 4 matchups. Plus 115, plus 100, plus 105, plus 100.
Ooh.
All slight underdogs. Tom, how can you make Thomas Dietrich an underdog against Seabez? I mean, I've got nothing against him, but he before the Olympics, he had a withdrawal and a miscut the 2 tournaments before. And Dietrich, he is slowly playing himself into being a world-class player, like a legit world-class player. Just keeps sticking his nose out on these big leaderboards, just showing up here, showing up there, at a major, at a signature event. I'm so impressed with this game. Great putter, very good ball striker. Same thing, again, when you just look at my bets, it was more like, why did they put this guy as an underdog? Højgaard, he played fantastic last week. Jaeger played fine. Højgaard played a little better. He's also coming in with a little more steam. He's been playing a little better as of late. The easy one, and this is another one that I'm like, how in the world could this be an underdog? Billy Horschel withdrew from his last tournament. He was emotionally gone after the Open Championship. And Aaron Rai, who has been killing it. He's before the Open, which is his last event, he had a 2nd, 7th, and 4th coming in. You want to give me that guy as an underdog over Horschel? I'll take it all day. And then also Davis Thompson. I mean, we've had so much fun watching him. And he went on a little short run where he just played fantastic, but he's petered out a little bit. 44th, 66th after John Deere. And Cameron Young is just one of those guys that I think hits it so solid. And he's very long, yes, but he's also very straight, that I just felt like giving me an underdog over Davis Thompson and giving me Cameron Young made financial sense.
You got to believe he's going to flip at some point. The fact that he's even money with Davis Thompson shows kind of what a subpar year he's had, but we know his talent and how good Davis has become. But when you win and you have high finishes, you're going to retract. And that's what we believe Davis Thompson will do this week. I can't believe we're getting Cam Young at plus 100. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Japan says, Steve Scott, the reason I come to the show. Well, Japan, I love you. You're an OG, but that's offensive to me and Robert Damron. But we'll get over it. We'll be okay. But for Steve Scott, he's got his own little cult following here. Talk to me on your 2 plays, sir.
Yeah, Big Cheesy, Hef Sterling. Thank you all for the love. I love.
Whoa! I didn't say anything about Big Cheesy.
I love the love. Oh, so good. So good. We love all the universe out here. But my head-to-heads, let's start with Akshay Bhatia, -120 over Kurt Kitayama. Kurt Kitayama, this is a big putting week, too. This has got to, you put the ball in play, you hit some good iron shots, but you can't shoot 20 under, which is what they do around these parts, without making some putts. Kurt Kitayama, he is not putting well at all. 9 of his last 11 events, he is negative in strokes gained putting. Akshay Bhatia was about 183rd last season on the PGA Tour. He's right around 50th right now in strokes gained putting. That is it's a monumental improvement in his putting. He's 30th in driving accuracy. Kitayama's 105th. Bhatia's 15th in the FedEx Cup. Kitayama is 74th. Those players, like we said earlier, those players just outside the top 70, they've got a lot of heat on them. Kurt Kitayama, he's got a lot of heat. And I think Bhatia, knowing that he grew up only about an hour and a half to the east in Wake Forest, North Carolina, hour and a half east of Greensboro, he knows the place. He knows the grasses, the Bermuda grass around here, very important. So I definitely like Akshay over Kurt there. Then Brian Harman over Shane Lowry. I'm fading Shane because he's taking that trip over, from the Olympics. He's going to have some jet lag. Brian Harman, this is a perfect golf course in my mind for a Brian Harman. It's not the longest course in the world, 8th shortest course on tour. So he's going to be able to come in fresh. He hasn't played the last 2 weeks either, Brian Harman has. So he's going to come in. He's going to be a lot more fresh. Now, let's be honest. Brian Harman and Shane Lowry, maybe not always the most positive guys in the whole entire world when things start going the wrong way. But I think the edge is going to go to Harman just because he's more fresh. And he's not going to have all the baggage from playing last week and going through all that. And so I like Brian Harman, -115 over Shane Lowry.
I do not trust Shane Lowry one bit. Not at all. Not at all. I think he's going to be tired. I mean, I played him a couple of weeks ago, and as he was like +3, +4, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I love fading him this week. Gentlemen, I like all of those. Now, one of the most difficult bets to make in golf is a finishing position. What did we see at the Olympics on Sunday? Scotty Scheffler down by 6 on the back 9, wins by 4. See what I'm saying? You just never know what's going to happen. You never know. John Rahm at 39 on the back. Let's go. So that's why we're very careful. Dial your bets back just a little bit. Robert, I'm going to come back over to you because as I look at you went into the top 10 market this week with 2 names. Who do you got?
Well, first off, thanks for bringing up the John Rahm debacle. I picked him outright, my only pick to win. I just knew he was going to win. I wake up. I'm up in Pikeville, Kentucky. I wake up. I look at my phone. Rahm's on the 10th fairway with a 4-shot lead, burning it up. I go, thanks very much. Take it to the pay window. And then something got around his throat there and started tugging and tightening. Anyway, no. At +650, I'm going Brennan Todd. I'm taking Brennan because of those fairways hit, because of the weather, of course. Brennan is mentally tough as nails. I'm sorry. You cannot go through what he did with his game going, not just gone, where he couldn't play hardly at all. He couldn't make a cut whatsoever. And the stick-to-itiveness was always impressive to me. But at this course, the last 3 years, he's got a 10th, he's got a 36, and he's got a 7th. So that's 2 right there out of the last 3 in the top 10. So +650 made perfect sense to me. And this one's a gamble, guys. This is just a bad weather, great ball striker gamble to me. Keith Mitchell. He's been playing not that well. He's missed 2 of his last 4 cuts. The other 2 were meh, so-so. He doesn't have the best of records here. But I think that this is just a different animal this week where you can take a Keith Mitchell and put him in at a course that maybe he doesn't normally play well at because it's not going to be the same course. It'll look the same, but it's not going to play the same. So a great ball striker. I'm sliding him in there to top 10 at +500.
And if he doesn't play well, he's one of those guys that lets you know.
70-something.
Yeah, it lets you know it. All right, let me come over to you because, Steve Scott, you might disagree with Robert a little bit on the emotional state of Billy Horschel. So I want to start with your top 10s and explain why you like him this week in that category.
Before I get to my picks, though, I want to educate all the viewers out there, and here's why. I'm looking on DraftKings. I do a lot of my picks from DraftKings. DraftKings, for the first time this week, as far as I have noticed, and I could be completely wrong, as far as I have noticed, though, they are including the top 5 and top 10s and top 20s and ties in their picks this week.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what that does? That expands your view so much because we really hate those dead heat reductions. We hate those. Those are the worst. And so once you get the ties, and this is a golf course where everybody is very bunched. If you remember, there was a 4-player playoff a couple years ago. It might have even been 5 or 6 actually, but there was at least 4 players in the playoff to win this golf tournament. This course bunches the field up because it's short. And so the ties at this golf course, I think, are so important to throw in there. So if you're betting on DraftKings this week, take note of that. And that's why I think these guys are going to get into the top 10s and top 20s that I've picked. So Billy Horschel right here, plus 250. He's got 5 top 11s here in his last 7 events. He loves this golf course. And in the last year, he has only had 1 better strokes gained putting round versus the field in his whole last year. And other than the Wyndham last year. So that was really good. Obviously, he's playing some good golf, tied for second at the Open a few weeks ago. He's feeling good about his game. He is an emotional player, and but that can be good sometimes too. But your well can run dry. I like the fact that he hasn't really played much golf recently, and I'm sure he's going to be pretty fresh. 41st in driving accuracy as well. So I like that. Matt Kuchar. He's got a lot to play for this week, plus 600 on the number. And he really needs a big week this week. He played really well, contended at the 3M Open in Minneapolis. Darn near won that thing. But he's 36th in driving accuracy. And he is one of the biggest strokes gained attitude guys in the world. So he always has a cheery outlook no matter what. I've known him since we played on the Walker Cup team together back in 1999. The guy just never has a bad day. So I don't care how much it rains. Kuchar, his attitude is going to be very important this week. Going to the top 20 guys that I picked, though, Eric Cole, another plus 250 guy, like Billy Horschel for my top 10. He's coming off 2 weeks at very rested. He hasn't played. Tied for 14th here the last 2 years. And I think most importantly for Eric Cole, he is 54th in the FedEx Cup rankings. Keep in mind the top 50. He wants to secure that top 50. Very important because those signature events for 2025 are coming into play. And so there's a big difference between 51st and 50th as far as the amount of money you're going to play for. So I think he's got a lot of motivation this week. And then my other guy, plus 450, Ben Silverman, pretty consistent performer. He's made his last 8 cuts in a row. He's a Canadian. He's used to kind of, dealing with some of this weather that's pretty nasty. 46th in driving accuracy, so he's in the top 25 percentile on the PGA Tour. And he's not the longest hitter in the world, but he's right around that top 100 in the FedEx Cup rankings right now. If he has a really good week, he could jump into that top 70, but pretty good for a guy who has not been in the signature events, came off the Korn Ferry Tour last year, has not had those, maximizing those starts. And, he's playing for the 300 FedEx Cup points in some of these alternate field events. So Ben Silverman is a pretty good value guy, whether you play him in the top 20 or you play him wherever. I like this guy. He's just really solid and very consistent.
Here's why you watch DTL Golf, because there's so many ways that guys are motivated this week. And how many of you knew that top 50 was a motivation this week? I would dare say very, very few. And it's not a criticism of all you at home. I don't know all of them either, but that's when my guys come to the table. And all these guys, you're going to see the fist pumps. You'll be like, why are they celebrating that 8th place finish? Because they all know. And by the way, Robert, I always get shredded by Big Cheesy when I name drop. And he dropped out to go to a meeting at the same time that our man Steve Scott name dropped the Walker Cup. And then, as coincidence, I think not, he comes back into the chat and says, meeting canceled. Now I can prepare for the Wyndham rather than a construction project. So Steve does not get shredded for name dropping today. Do you think that's a coincidence, Robert Damron?
No, not at all. I'm glad that Big Cheesy's big porta potty construction meeting fell through, and he could pay attention and maybe get a few picks. Some people are going to have to hold it a little longer than usual, but there's always a silver lining to that gray cloud.
Oh, great question also from Joseph. He says, what network do you guys watch golf on? Whichever one it is on, Joseph. We watch every single thing. Now, we work on PGA Tour Live on ESPN. That's where you should be watching all day.
Yeah.
But we watch it on everything. Big Cheesy says, I'm dying. That was good. Thank you, Big Cheesy. I appreciate that. Now, we are so thankful to have people starting to notice our little world right now. And this is as much entertainment as it is sports. And we are very excited that coming up on August 30th, one of our partners, I can't wait. I'm going to be front and center for Reagan, the movie.
Welcome to your life.
You can run from a bully for so long,
There's no
but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to him.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
I am about to start the biggest war of this century.
You told me you wanted to make a difference in this world.
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wants to rule the world.
I want you to fight. I want you to
Chills.
fight. Right? I can't wait for that movie. Wow. I wonder who's out there getting these deals done for driving the line, getting movie. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who that would be.
Somebody smart.
Very smart, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, more than a couple of times, the three of us have picked winners. You know, Fast Eddie likes to do that whole Scotty Scheffler thing. But
Yeah.
there's nothing more. By the way, he couldn't be bothered. You know, he's in LA. He could have come right down to my studio, been on the show, but no, he couldn't be bothered this week.
You know why?
Why?
He has been betting the Tommy Fleetwood heavy. Finally, last week, he says he's given up on him. And he walks away with a silver medal.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
Make me
so
pretty mad,
true.
too.
That is so
Yeah.
true. Oh my gosh. But he did skull a chip on 17. So it is what it
Yeah,
is.
he did.
It is what it is. You know, tie for the lead.
Nerd.
He did. It's very hard to pick a winner in the world of golf. And this week, I want to remind you that a couple of years ago when Tom Kim was just coming out, just making a name for himself, he needed to win this event because he was not a member of the PGA Tour. They have those weird rules. He had a quadruple bogey on the very first hole, and he still won the event because he grinds, he fights, he's gutty. So, Robert Damron, my question to you is, who's going to be grinding? Who's going to be gutty this week for you?
The guys that are going to be gutty are two of the guys that are amongst the absolute best on tour without a win. We've already mentioned them both, so I won't go too deep into it. But when my favorites, my two guys that I picked to win are plus 2,800 and plus 3,000, I think it's time to kind of pay a little attention to that because these guys, again, they're going to win at some point. That's what we all think. That's what everybody says, not just on DTL. Every golf expert, quote unquote, these guys are great. They're going to win eventually. Aaron Rai being British, I mean, no one likes this weather, but he's going to be more used to it than anyone else. And Cameron Young, great ball striking. So again, don't need to go back deep into their what they've done. We all know that, but I think just the numbers alone make great sense that one of these two will get their first victory on the PGA Tour.
I thought that was a great point. When the numbers can make a difference with who you like elsewhere, it's kind of what we like to call the sweet spot. And these two numbers are the sweet spot for you. Now, Steve Scott, for you, I am shocked that Akshay Bhatia at some point this summer didn't back into something because he was always right there. 2 straight weeks, he was in the final group in Hartford, in Detroit.
Yep.
Couldn't get the job done. Why do you think this week could be the week?
Well, I think before I get to Akshay, though, I really want to piggyback on the Aaron Rai pick real quick because I love it. And the reason why is he's the guy who wears the 2 gloves. And I think, they're the rain gloves. And so, like, it's going to rain and he's going to be perfect fit for the guy who's, so keep that, in the old noggin there. But anyway, I love that. I love the Aaron Rai pick for that. But anyway, Akshay, I just like the fact that this is a comfort zone for him. He's a North Carolinian. This is where he loves it. JT Poston won here a few years ago, made no bogeys in 72 holes. He grew up about an hour to the west of Greensboro in Old Hickory, North Carolina. So players who know these grasses, Bermuda grass especially, these greens, it's so important. Akshay knows it so well. But as far as those courses that you're talking about, I really think he excels a little bit more on the courses that tend to be a little shorter in distance as opposed to the longest courses on tour. And here's why. He tied for second at the Rocket Mortgage. He was right there. Tied for fifth at TPC River Highlands, where the Travelers played. The course that he won on, the TPC in San Antonio there for the Valero Texas Open, that's about an average length course on tour. And it played pretty fast that week. The ball's running. So he does a really good job of flighting his wedges. Hits a lot of varied trajectories. Really great with his spin control. Curves the ball a lot. So I really like that around these parts, just because there's a lot of pitched greens. It's a Donald Ross golf course where you got to keep the ball below the hole. These greens have a lot of slope to them, so you really have to have a lot of good spin control and really have dialed in with your irons to get the ball underneath the hole so you can roll your putts in. And we know from before he's where he's rolling the ball great this year as compared to his peers on tour. So love Akshay, plus 3,500. Throw a little cheese on him this week.
A little jingle jangle, if you will. Real quick, either one of you guys like Sanjay this week? Question from the chat.
I mean, I think he'll do great. Just the fact that he's the favorite. He's what was his number? 12 plus 1,200. It's hard to bet it, but hard to bet against him this week. But I wouldn't put a lot on it.
Just a second. I just got a text from Fast Eddie. He says, book it, Sanjay. Okay, we got you, Fast Eddie.
Oh, all right.
Those are actually long odds for Fast Eddie, to be honest. He plus 500, He
don't want to hurt anybody. He just wants to double or triple his money.
He does. I'm sorry, he's catching strays today, but that's what happens when you're at 37,000 feet. All right, Category number 5. This is where we put anything that doesn't belong anywhere else. We call this the long shot category. Steve, I'm going to come right back to you. Who do you like in this category?
I would pick two guys, and they kind of belong somewhere. Denny McCarthy belongs somewhere. He feels like he probably belongs in the winner's circle at some point soon. The man can putt the eyes out of it. I mean, if the hole was the size of a thimble, he might win every single week because he hits it right where he's looking on the greens, always in the top 5, if not the top 1 on the PGA Tour. So the guy can roll his rock. And this was a golf course last year. This was his best putting performance in the last 25 starts that he's had, was the best performance on these greens at Sedgefield Country Club. And, his approach game has been a little off this week. But if you can take a guy who can get the ball in the fairway, they're going to play lift, clean, and place this week. That's going to be super important. They're going to if they can put the ball in the fairway, they can put the ball in the most perfect lie they want. They're going to clean their golf ball, get all that mud, that pesky mud off, and they're going to put it in the perfect lie in the fairway, which, kind of, it narrows down the field as far as the strokes gain approach numbers. I think the players who can do that, it's like lift, clean, and cheat, we call it. And so Denny McCarthy, he'll be able to hit a little better iron shots, I feel. And then once you get him on the greens, it's game over. So Denny McCarthy plus 6,000. Let's throw a little something on him. Harry Hall, I think this is a bit of an insulting number at plus 10,000. Mm-hmm. Here's a guy who won less than 4 weeks ago at the ISCO Championship in Kentucky, Robert's hometown right there almost. He tied for 12th. And he tied for 24th in his other 2 starts in his last 3, including that win. So plus 10,000 for Harry Hall. I don't quite see it, but they've kind of insulted him this week. Maybe they don't like his little Ben Hogan cap that he wears. I don't know.
Back in the day, in my WWE days, Steve, I used to wear that hat and I'd turn around backwards with sunglasses. Called heel coach. So very different from Harry Hall, though. Very different from heel. But Robert understands being a heel. He was born a heel. You were born a heel. All right. I mean, I can't believe we're getting these numbers sometimes. I'm blown away at you've gone, Steve, from 2 years ago. I don't even know what a number is till you're an absolute betting expert. It blows me away. Blows me away. RD, bring us home on yours, big boy.
So Justin Rose, he's had 3 top 10s at this event alone, and he's been playing. He's been actually showing up on leaderboards and playing pretty nicely here lately. And I feel like this course owes him because was it 2 years ago he 3-putted 18 to let Chesson Hadley finish 125th on the and that's before it was top 70. That's when 125 got into the playoffs. I think Hadley made a hole-in-one on 17.
He did.
He shot 62 last round and still needed Jay Rose to three-putt the last hole to let him in. So maybe this course owes him for his generosity to Chesson Hadley. And, Coach, I mentioned earlier, Keith Mitchell's not been playing great. He's not got the best record here at Sedgefield. But since Reagan the movie is sponsoring us, Keith Mitchell, tear down this wall. Play well at Sedgefield. I'm betting strictly on your straight ball striking. You're going to be needing it this week in the mush. So yeah, I'm betting this one. Maybe a touch with the heart, but I just got that feeling.
You guys are killing me today. Big Cheesy says, poor RD. He's a Commanders fan. Are you a Washington fan?
No.
What's on your shirt, RD?
That's Seminole Golf Course.
See, Big
West
Cheesy,
Palm Beach.
Seminole.
There you go. I mean,
there you see, this is golf.
Same
this
logo.
Golf.
What is that, Steve? Did you win something there?
Yeah, just a little something.
He found that at a thrift store.
A little member guest.
I got paint in the Seminole locker room. That's all I need the rest of my life. I'm good.
Wow. Okay. A couple of questions. Tom Hoagie hasn't done a lot. Good iron player. Anybody like him this week on this type of golf course?
Of course. Same thing as, and I don't have his numbers in front of me. They would have to make dollars to make sense. But again, I've gone, like I said, with Keith Mitchell, ball striking, iron play. Nobody's much better than Hoagie, but got to be put in the fairway. Because I don't care if you're the best ball striker in the world. You're not going to catch up to a guy lift clean and placing it in the fairway while you're in the rough.
Now, Steve, enlighten me here, because I didn't know that they could. Is it just? Are you assuming they are, or do they announce it earlier in the week?
I am. It's a complete. It's a pretty educated guess right here. I mean, they're going to have to build an arc here in North Carolina. It's going to be so wet. I mean, they're getting. I've seen the estimations. Could be about 6 inches of rain total between Thursday and Friday. So this golf course is not going to be able to handle that. And if there's any sign of mud or any thought that mud will get on the golf ball, the PGA Tour officials are pretty quick, and RD can back me up on this. He's played out there a lot more than I did. But any sign, any hint of that, they're going to play the ball. They're going to be able to let them clean it. They don't want mud influencing the FedEx Cup top 70 players. They don't want that. So, but it's going to be so wet, they're not going to have a choice.
Right. Real quick, RD, educate the people why, if the rain, let's say, and I'm just throwing this out there, if the rain's not scheduled to come until 2:00, why do they get lift, clean, and place in the morning?
Yeah, that's a good question. And every year on X, or every week that somebody does, why are they playing lift, clean, and place? It's perfect out there. Well, you have to have a fair, equal playing field, essentially, across first tee time to last tee time. And you can't let the first wave play, the ball down in nice weather. And then 2, 3 o'clock, the weather comes and it opens up and you start getting mud balls and standing water for the afternoon guys. So that way it makes it a level playing field, as level as we can make it. You can't handle Mother Nature. You can't control what happens there. But it means that is as level and a playing field as we can make it for everyone, first tee time to last tee time.
All right, very good. There's a question from the chat. Do we have any Corn Ferry picks this week? My guys are PGA Tour. Are you still?
Yeah, Corn
We
Ferry.
don't play on the Corn Ferry Tour.
No.
What is that? We would never go back to that. Please.
Minor leagues? No.
All right, we've done all 5 categories, and we wrap every show up getting the final thoughts from my guys and the top 70 this week. And the last thing that they want to do is play on Monday and then have to turn around and play on Thursday. But hey, guess what? Finish higher and you don't got to play this week. Final thoughts, Steve, let's start with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to this tournament so much. And the reason why I am going to be on PGA Tour Live this week, I'll be on the course and I'm going to be soaking wet, but I'm going to be out there on the featured group stream. So tune in out there and TV land and check us out on ESPN+.
And guess what? Me and Robert Damron will not be laughing at you from our couch. We would never do that, RD, would we?
You'd be nice.
Never.
You'd be dry.
Steve will be out there dressed up like Paddington Bear with the rain slicks and
He
the
will.
boots on. Yeah, I know he will. 100%. He's as prepared as anyone. So yeah,
I'm waiting for the playoffs. I'm waiting for St. Jude. That's where I'll be on the call. I don't need, please.
No, we'll be on Memphis. You and I got Memphis the next week when the big time shows up. I'm a sadistic deep in my soul, I guess. I love watching golf in terrible weather. I love watching struggles. I also love the final tournament. It's Wyndham now. It used to be other tournaments, but the final tournament of the year, because you see some great heroic play and you see some choking dogs. And it has nothing to do with who's winning the golf tournament. It has to do with who's getting inside that top 70 and going to Memphis. So Coach and I could call a little golf their direction.
Or as we like to call ourselves, the A-team can call a little golf in the first round of the playoffs. We like to say the game within the game, the brand within the brand. There's so many different motivations for players this week, and that's why we absolutely love it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show too. As always, look for some round-by-round picks coming up on DTL, but if they do what Steve says, we're going to stay away because I do not want to finish the next day, then pick. It's just a nightmare on round-by-round picks, but we will monitor as we go. That's going to do it for my man, Steve Scott. For RD, producer man, thank you for the one shot. And never forget about my man behind the scenes making the show look like $1 million. I am simply the coach trying to get this train on said track. We're live every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and there is nobody better with more knowledge in golf than my crew right here. So with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Wyndham Championship tickets straight to the pay window. My man RD, my man Steve Scott, and I believe Gabby Thomas just won the gold medal in Olympic 200 meter. Congratulations to her too. Go out there and enjoy the golf this week. We're here every week right here. DTL Golf. Take care.